They're a very familiar foe of yours. Max Holloway will be welcoming Conor McGregor back to the Octagon next month, we all hope. If this fight does happen, it's at welterweight. How do you see this going? Can Conor do anything with the fighter you're probably more familiar with than anyone in Max Holloway?
Well, we know that Conor hasn't been in the game for a long time, and I think a lot of people are thinking that he's just going to lose everything, but that's not the case. He's going to be dangerous. He's obviously going to still be very sharp, very explosive. Still got a good eye. Is it the exact eye that he had when he was double champ and doing what he was doing? No, probably not. But still going to be very dangerous. And I know Max is going to respect that. Obviously, they're going to want to put on a show, but at the same time, you're going to know Conor will be very dangerous early. I think Max will make the right decisions to not just get in the fire straight away, and then start to work him later in them rounds. Like we know that Conor, again, very dangerous, very explosive, but that is going to wear on you. And with that big layoff, even though he's probably training very hard, we know that that's going to eventually wear on him. And that sharpness that I reckon he still has is probably going to deteriorate a lot quicker because of his been out of the game for so long.
All right, so Conor McGregor is coming back to the UFC. International Fight Week, the biggest star in all of combat sports, the two-weight division champion, the Notorious one, whatever you want to call him, he's coming back, and it is a rematch against Max Blessed Holloway, Maxi Baby, the former BMF, the best boxer in the UFC, brah. The best boxer in the UFC, baby! This fight is phenomenal. It's a rematch from the first fight that happened in 2013.
That's a fantastic fight, ladies and gentlemen!
When Conor McGregor was just on the come up. When Max Holloway was known for being a really young fighter, but really good with good boxing, actually took Conor McGregor to the third round. Conor had to take him down in the third round because guess what? Turns out he blew his ACL.
I wanted to keep it standing and put him away. In the second round, I caught a kick, tried to advance it past his half guard, and he caught my leg in an awkward position, and my whole knee just popped out midway through the second round.
I was actually with Conor and his manager, Audie Atar, when Dana White came down. We were in Laguna Beach, California, told him to his face that he'd bust his knee.
Interesting that, well, first of all, moving way up in weight, which is no shock. I mean, McGregor, he's not going to make the weight that he used to make, not even close to it. He's been inactive, 4 years, over 4 years, whatever it is, a long time. And he was basically retired, living a certain kind of life, right? Let's face it. Not a real, not a life that was an athletic life, a life that was necessarily keeping him fresh or his body, ready. So he's got to come back. He knows what weight he can make. That's why it's at such a higher weight. So that tells you something right there where he is, physically, right? That he's not close to what he was. Not that we expected it, but that confirms it with that he needs that cushion of weight. Hey, look, McGregor he's another pioneer. I mean, he's a legend. He was a great fighter, and he's still a great promoter and a big name. He's still the biggest name in the UFC, like it or not. And first thing is that I think when my son says, tell me what you think, I won't be sure that this fight's going to happen until it happens. That's number one. Maybe
he was on Jimmy Fallon. He's doing the rounds. It's my understanding that he went from New York and he's going to Vegas or California rather, and he's going to lock in the rest of his camp here. So I'm confident, unless anyone can get injured badly, things can happen in a camp. But I think he fully intends on fighting this fight.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think he intends on fighting this fight too. But what I'm saying is that you're supposed to say the right thing. You're not supposed to alarm people that, there's issues. And even in your head, you might think you're saying the right thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the right thing is going to happen. But I'm hoping, I'm positive, and I'm optimistic that the right thing will happen with Conor, and that he does do this fight, and then he does come back in April, and he does submit himself to the mercy of the game like everyone else. So I'm optimistic that those things will happen.
Yeah. What about the fight itself? I mean, we bring up all these hypotheticals if he could fight Justin Gaethje and all that. I mean, it's exactly a 5-year layoff. The current Kalshi market has him with a 34% chance to Max Holloway 66, which feels, a little more generous than I was expecting there. I don't know. How do you feel about this fight? Can Conor McGregor, are we just making fun games here for the sake of conversation, or is there a world where you see Conor McGregor actually winning this fight?
Against Max Holloway?
Yes, against Max Holloway.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And the only reason why I'm saying that with this level of confidence is because he's done things before that we never thought he could do. So you kind of have to take him seriously when he says something. You have to. I've watched Conor. I was one of Marcus Brimmage's sparring partners when Marcus fought him. Oh, I'm just fighting this guy from Ireland. Now he's from Ireland. Who fight out of Ireland? Oh, this guy named Conor something. Oh, man, he touched him up, right? And then he goes on this run. Then he fights Dustin, and we go, oh, yeah, Dustin's the one who's going to save us. Dustin's our guy. Then he knocks Dustin out. You're like, wow, this guy. And then he goes on this run, knocking out all our heroes. You're like, damn, right?
The clock is ticking down, and the buzz about Conor McGregor and Max Holloway is growing louder and louder by the day. Every single day brings forth a new prediction, another ex-fighter makes his thoughts known, and another argument breaks out about who will come out on top when the cage door shuts behind them. There are those who believe the strength and fighting prowess of McGregor will prove to be too strong to handle, while others feel that the endurance and constant movement of Holloway will get him his vengeance at long last. But with all these opinions coming in from all angles, one thing remains clear. Who really is making the smartest prediction?
He also, if you've been paying attention to Conor McGregor, he seems to be in better spirit, seems to be level-headed finally, and then also just looks healthier. He looks healthier. I assume he's chilled out on the devil's dandruff and the old hooch, I would assume.
Did you see what he said about the contract, where they
he didn't give a lot up on the contracts. Like, he wouldn't get into numbers. That's usually a red flag, meaning the numbers aren't as crazy as we think, because we're all gonna say, well, if they offer John Jones $30 million, what's Conor worth? Here's the issue with that, though. So we're all aligned, going, oh, Conor's worth more than $30 million. I just think the UFC's like, all right, contractually, he has two. We're not going to pay him over $30 million. It's probably somewhere in the $20 million, 20 to 25, I would assume. Who knows? This is all just assuming here. But let's say, if they're paying Poatan 10, Conor has a little more leverage. Let's say it's around 20 is the ball.
That, yes, 2026 is the year of the propeller hats. 2026 is the year where every single big fight, every single main event, where we look at it and we go, yeah, this guy's completely fucked. They win and they dominate and they make narratives look completely fucking stupid in hindsight, right? Chimaev, complete aura loss. Ilya Topuria, complete aura loss. Marab, complete aura loss. And I actually feel like we are living in the timeline where Conor McGregor comes back at UFC 329 and KOs Max Holloway, okay? When I talk about the matchup, I'm not just talking about, dude, Conor McGregor is a better striker than Max Holloway. I feel like, overall he kind of is. But listen, bro. Looking at the matchup, right? Obviously, there is a lot of question marks. There's a lot of things we don't know because we haven't seen Conor McGregor in the UFC Octagon for 5 years. I totally understand that. I do not look at this betting line and go, these people are idiots. They should be picking McGregor. I'm not saying that, okay? I understand why McGregor...
Peak McGregor fever, probably not. I don't think that's going to happen. Will it be still really big, and then especially like still much bigger than the rest of the UFC pack? And you got to notice, like, dude, the UFC's been doing some, there's been some decline this year, but over the last couple of years, they've been doing huge gate numbers. I mean, we all know that, and I think Conor will definitely continue and then exceed that trend. I think the other part for me, though, I'm sorry, as a fighter, we'll talk more about the odds in a second. I'll tee that up here in a few minutes, but the guy hasn't fought since 2021. He hasn't got a win in almost, not quite, but almost 7 years. Okay. And remember, Chuck, the last time we saw him, people just forget about this. The last time we saw him, he broke his shin in half.
Yeah.
Right. That is a catastrophic injury. And Chris Weidman was never the same after it. Anderson Silva was never the same after it. Like, they were just, the whole thing was a disaster for both of them. Now, granted, they were older, and I don't know. Well, actually, I'm not sure how old was Chris Weidman when he broke his shin in Long Island. Can you look that up?
I'll look it up. Mid-30s, but I'll look it up.
But Conor was what, 32 when he broke his shin?
Yeah, he was 32. Yeah.
So I mean, that's not like super old, but it's not super young either. And in either case, just a gigantic.
Din Thomas feels like this fight may not be all about power alone. Although he still expects power from the Irishman, he is uncertain if McGregor has maintained the speed and balance that made him so hard to handle before. But on the other hand, all of those feints, angles, and combinations by Holloway may cause a lot of trouble for the champ. Should Holloway manage to outdistance himself slightly from his preferred range while pressuring him with his volume, Thomas expects the tide of the battle to turn in favor of Max.
In terms of the actual fight, I guess, what is it? He needs to snipe him in the first couple of rounds. We're hoping Max Holloway's chin, after, being untouchable for a decade, and he's now been dropped in 3 of the past 4. Like maybe it's just not there and he can land the right shot and power's the last thing to go type of deal.
Yeah, I think, well, Conor's still going to have that power. I just don't know if he's going to have the speed or the balance.
Yeah.
With like having the balance with the speed. I think that in terms of foot speed, like Conor's always been great about understanding distance and creating angles and keeping people at the end of his punches to where he's really maximizing every shot and getting the most out of every shot. But Max Holloway is really crafty on his feet and creating like smaller angles to stay out of that range while giving you the illusion that you're in that range. And he's a volume puncher. And I think he might have the speed in the combinations, like between his combinations, he might have more speed in those moments.
Thomas went even further and asserted that the reason why Holloway will emerge victorious is because of disciplined movements and continual pressure. The Irishman may find it difficult if Max manages to stay out of range of McGregor's powerful punches, but keeps hitting him with his own. According to Thomas, the opening series of punches will remind McGregor of his losses he recently had. His confidence may falter due to the stress. It is not the knockout blow that he should be looking for, but continual pressure through sharp combinations.
So I think if he could avoid staying out of Conor's, danger zone and just, just kind of off to the side of in the angles, I think he touches Conor up and I don't think Conor will do well if he starts getting touched up. I think after being out for so long and what has happened to him in his last couple of fights, I think if he starts getting touched up, it's going to be traumatic. It's going to trigger him that, oh no, I got knocked out by Dustin and afterwards, I got my leg broke. I think it's going to trigger him, and he's going to have a bad experience. He's going to get touched up and find a way out. So it's going to be Max's job to just really put his hands on him and let him know that I'm.
Nevertheless, not everyone shares the view that McGregor's self-assurance is just a ploy to make headlines. According to Brett Okamoto, Conor's confidence is most likely legitimate, as it originates from their first encounter when he successfully managed to defeat Max Holloway, despite being severely injured by him during the bout. The mere thought of having defeated him at one point gives McGregor confidence in his ability to beat him once again, creating a good story for the upcoming rematch.
When he talks about Max Holloway and says, hey, this is the same guy that I fought in 2013, what's your reaction to that? And do you believe he actually believes this, or do you think he's just kind of trying to build the fight?
I mean, I think he has to believe it to a certain extent. Like, not that he thinks he's the same guy skills-wise, but like, I beat this guy, which means I'm going to beat him again. I think that's probably kind of human nature. That seems like the kind of philosophy that he would take, and he's doing it to build a fight, but also for himself. I think that like who is this guy? I beat him with one knee the last time. Like, I tore my ACL and I beat this guy. Like, you telling me I can't beat this guy again? So I think it's good for his psyche, and I think it's not a bad line to sell the fight. I gotta believe that Conor also knows that he's watched a few Max Holloway fights since then, and that he needs to be prepared. And I think he's been preparing. I really do think.
However, Okamoto does not believe that McGregor is deluding himself. On the contrary, he thinks that Conor has been watching the emergence of Holloway and knows what changes he has gone through. However, Okamoto notes that trusting in McGregor's ability and having expectations for him to get things done is entirely different. He mentions the immense difficulty of fighting for 5 tough rounds with a tough fighter such as Max Holloway after a long break from competing due to a bad leg injury, claiming it to be one of the most difficult assignments in the world. But on the other hand, Okamoto acknowledges the fact that everything will be different if McGregor managed to do it. A victory will place Conor right into the middle of the title race. Even Okamoto mentioned that the UFC may consider fighting against big-name fighters such as Justin Gaethje. Adding to the perspectives, Brendan Schaub feels that it seems McGregor is in a much better spot compared to how he has been in recent years. He felt that Conor's cool head, fit physique, and intense mindset showed that the former champion was going about his comeback in the right way. The other topic that Schaub addressed from this fight was the business aspect of the fight. It was clear that McGregor did not divulge too much information regarding his new UFC contract, with many people assuming that the Irishman will get a record-breaking payday, but Schaub feels that the deal will be less than expected and would fall in the range of $20 to $25 million. Schaub also made an interesting suggestion regarding the way the UFC promotes its events. He thinks that if the organization had chosen to include McGregor and Holloway in an event at the White House, they would have made a huge noise there. However, Schaub speculates that there may have been some reasons why the organization didn't want to use McGregor in this particular situation. As per Schaub, the continuous scandals around McGregor and the publicity associated with them might have led to a decision not to involve him in the event, because otherwise the media could divert their focus from the actual fight. If McGregor gets past Holloway, the possibilities become endless, but one matchup is already setting fans' imaginations on fire. Israel Adesanya believes there is one fight that would dwarf almost everything else the UFC could make: McGregor versus Justin Gaethje. In his view, the bout would be such a massive global attraction that it would generate unbelievable attention, sell in extraordinary numbers, and become one of those rare events that benefits everyone involved. To Adesanya, it's the kind of blockbuster showdown capable of shaking the entire MMA world. That excitement isn't limited to Adesanya either. Looking beyond McGregor's upcoming test against Holloway, Javier Mendez admitted there's one fight he hopes the UFC can eventually make: Islam Makhachev versus Conor McGregor. The veteran coach believes the rivalry between the two camps, rooted in the long-running feud that began during Khabib Nurmagomedov's era, would make it one of the biggest spectacles in UFC history. Mendez even reflected on the unforgettable atmosphere of the Khabib fight, saying the hostile crowd only made the occasion more memorable. In his eyes, another showdown with McGregor would capture that same electricity while delivering an even bigger event for the sport. Not everyone, however, is convinced McGregor's comeback is just wishful thinking. Bedtime MMA pointed to the surprising trend that has defined 2026, with several fighters written off before their bouts, only to silence critics with dominant performances. Because of that, he believes it would be a mistake to completely dismiss McGregor's chances against Holloway, while acknowledging the massive questions surrounding Conor after a 5-year absence from the Octagon. He argued that the betting odds shouldn't be treated as proof that the fight is already decided. In his view, McGregor's striking and the unpredictability of his return make this a far more dangerous matchup than many fans are willing to admit. Expanding on that prediction, Bedtime MMA argued that McGregor's chances depend almost entirely on one condition: arriving healthy and fully prepared. He noted that unlike earlier in his career when Conor was willing to fight through injuries, the Irishman has recently shown he's prepared to wait until he's at his best. If that version of McGregor enters the Octagon, the analyst believes the stylistic matchup becomes much more interesting. He suggested McGregor could use his kicking game to pressure Holloway, disrupting the rhythm that has made Max so effective, citing Holloway's struggles against opponents who consistently attack his legs and force him backward. He believes Conor has the tools to create those same problems if he executes the right game plan. Who wins at UFC 329, Conor McGregor or Max Holloway? Let us know your prediction in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more MMA content.